Welcome to another week of Half Serious. Thank you for continually tuning in. Again, why you guys do have no idea, but just thanks. This thing has taken off more than I'd hoped. So this week we have a special guest, Conrad Weaver, who is the director of the award-winning PTSD911 movie. If you have not seen it, as soon as this interview gets over, I highly recommend you give it a listen or give it a watch. I guess you could give it a listen too. I did not see it prior to this interview on purpose because I wanted the questions to kind of cater to somebody who hadn't seen it yet. And then I watched it as soon as our interview was done. It was awesome. I know I use the word awesome a lot, but it was awesome. It's also just refreshing to see somebody that's not directly involved in first responders to help them in such a way, in such a grandiose way, right? Usually the only people that we feel like are there for us are the family members or people who are somewhat involved in it. But he had no connections to it. He just saw a need and then he went for it. And it's been amazingly successful and hopefully will continue to be so. And as usual, I will shut up and here is Conrad. I know you've been asked this question quite a few times, but I am curious to hear, especially now that a little bit of time has passed. But it's a little odd for a non-first responder to invest in it. And I'm just curious as to why, because so many people either love or hate them. I feel like it's a really divisive topic.
Sure.
And so for somebody not to, at least that I could research, nobody that you don't have any law enforcement or firefighters in your family or whatnot, you just kind of dove into it, or what happened?
Yeah. So I'm a filmmaker. I've been producing documentaries for probably 15 years or so, was doing corporate work in the video world before then. And I've had, I have a degree in psychology, but that was many, many years ago, probably long before you were born, because I'm an old dude.
Okay.
But I take it back to, so I have to go way back to when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go to my grandma's house, and this was up in Northeast Ohio, and she lived in a rural community, and she had this little box on her shelf with an antenna on it, and it squawked and squeaked and squealed, and then you heard calls. It was a scanner, and she had it on like 24/7. So I grew up listening to this thing every time I went to grandma's house, and it wasn't a real busy area, so it wasn't like always going off. But, I guess grandma was just curious of what was going on in the community. And so that's kind of what started my interest in public safety and hearing what's going on. And then back in 2005, we moved to Emmitsburg, Maryland. And if you're in the fire service, you know this town. It's the home of the National Fire Academy, the home of the National Emergency Training Center. And we have an all-volunteer fire department there. And when there is an emergency call, the siren goes off because it's an all-volunteer fire department. And so the first night we lived there, we didn't know this. And like 2:30 in the morning, the siren goes off. We all woke up. We're like, what's going on? We know we live near Washington, D.C. Is that like a national emergency going on? And pretty soon we just became aware, okay, this is what they do, when there's an emergency call. And so being around that environment, you're always around, you're listening to the fire trucks. And then I became my grandmother. Because, we have these phones now that can put a scanner app on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And so I downloaded the scanner app, and now, my kids would like, Dad, what's going on? I'd turn on the scanner and we'd hear what's going on in the community. And then, I forget what year it was, but the local fire department, they were celebrating 125 years in service. And so they knew I was a video producer. And so they hired me to produce a short documentary about their history. And so I was able to interview all these old codgers who have been, running ambulances when they were still in station wagons. I mean, when they were going on scenes, in station wagons, and basically a station wagon. And, just hearing their stories and being in that environment, and then getting to, ride in a fire truck and do all that fun stuff, that you do. So that kind of got the wheels turning in the first responder space. And then as one produces documentaries, one kind of leads to another. And so in 2017, I started working on a film called Heroine's Grip. story about the opioid crisis, and it was
Mm.
here locally here in Maryland. And then I was invited by the sheriff's department to do ride-alongs, and I had an interview with the sheriff, and he was like, "Hey, if you ever want to ride with our guys, we have a drug interdiction team. You can ride with them. They monitor I-70, all the drug
Mhm.
traffic come out of Baltimore." And so I was like, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
So I was put in with the top guy, and, we'd be sitting there in the median at midnight and watching these cars come out of Baltimore. And all of a sudden, we were heading down the highway, lights and sirens, and we pulled somebody over. They'd pull the dog in, and the dog you know, would indicate that there was, narcotics in the car, and then there was,
Yeah.
handcuffs and all that kind of stuff. And so I got to document all that and be a part of that. And then one day I was with our local police department here in Frederick, Maryland, and I was riding with an officer who the chief had put me with her because she had a sister who was a heroin user. And so she really
Mm.
understood, the effects of this on the family. And so
Mhm.
I was riding with her one day, not hoping that there would be an overdose, but if there was, I wanted to be there. And sure
Yeah.
enough, the call came and lights and sirens are off to the scene. We get there and it's a fatal overdose. And so we get in the house, and if you're a first responder, you've seen this. It's chaos. Mom's
Mhm.
screaming. She had just told her daughter to kill herself, and now her daughter's dead. Dad's crying. It's just a whole mess. Well, the
Yeah.
medics came out and said, she's gone. And for me as a civilian, it was like, whoa, this is heavy. But I looked around, and the first responders on scene were like, that's just Tuesday.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just another day, another call. And so I was like, that's not really a normal human response to something like this. What's up with this? And so I asked the officer I was with, I said, hey, do you guys have problems with PTS? Is PTSD a thing? And she was like, oh, yeah, if you only knew the half of it. But then she said this, she said, if you want to make a movie about that, I'll do anything I can to help you.
That's cool.
And so that got the wheels rolling. And what we didn't realize that day was that she had become one of the main characters in PTSD 911. So we tell her story in this new documentary.
That's
And
cool.
so it was, that's what launched that. And that was in 2017. And so I started really kind of working on this film in 2019. And then, of course, we know what happened in 2020, and
Mhm.
things shut down. So we actually, all of our first interviews were all done on Zoom.
Oh, wow.
And so we knew weren't ever going to use that, but I wanted to kind of get familiar with these. So we actually made our first trailer sizzle reel off
Mhm.
of the Zoom interviews and put that out there to kind of help raise money. And then in 2021, as soon as we could travel, I started traveling across the country, capturing these stories. And so we have a firefighter out of Anaheim, California. He's a firefighter paramedic out of Anaheim. Have a dispatcher out of Boston. She was a part of the Boston Marathon bombing event.
Yeah,
She
that's a bad one.
took calls for that. And then our local police officer here in Maryland. So those three were the main three characters. And we have some other people that we pulled in as well, because everybody has a different type of a story. And
Mhm.
so, but then we also didn't want to just make a documentary that just tells these terrible stories of PTSD. I wanted to also show what agencies are doing to help
Mm.
their people. And so we highlight some of these I guess case studies of agencies that are doing things well, not perfect by any means, but so we feature Cal Fire. They're doing amazing work out there in California, very forward thinking. They actually do a lot of mental health training at the academy. So we documented some of that. And then we work with the police department down in Garland, Texas. They very forward thinking. They have a full-time officer who's their wellness officer. They have a lot of resources available for their, 300 plus sworn officers. So we want to highlight these agencies that are really on the forefront of what is good. And then we also worked with a couple of psychologists and experts who understand PTSD, and they describe what happens in the brain, what actually goes on in the brain to create PTSD. And we know now that oftentimes PTSD, the D isn't necessarily the D, the disorder. It's
Mhm.
now even in the world of psychiatric of psychiatry, if I can say the word right, they're really considering to make it an injury instead of a disorder in a lot of cases, which I think is great. In fact, I
Yeah.
got to talk to, and I don't remember his name, but he was the gentleman, the doctor who helped define PTSD and put it in the DSM. And then I actually talked to him, and he said he's now working to reverse that and make it an injury rather than a
Awesome.
disorder. So I think that can help lower the stigma because
Yeah.
it's that disorder that's, am I screwed up?
Hmm.
Is the thing. So yeah, that's kind of the origin of this film and how it came to be.
So I see now. Now I'm excited to hear that part of the film because that alone, just to be able to say, yeah, my brain's injured, other than like, yeah, I got screwed up in the head. I mean, it sounds so much better to
Yeah,
us,
and to be
So
clear, in the film, that kinda came after the film, so we don't go deep into the injury part of stuff in the film because that kind of was a discovery I made after the film was done, and now, I guess I need to do part 2. Maybe I
yeah,
need to do a PTS a PTSI
yeah.
911.
Maybe the evolution of mental health. Hopefully, it's gotten
There you
better than it
go,
was
yeah.
then.
Well, and I guess that's why I have a podcast now because that's what I do on the podcast is talk about these things, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, was it hard to find participants in different areas of the country? And were you searching at certain areas in the country, or was it just whoever's story was appealing to what you were trying to tell?
Yeah, great question. So what we did is we set up a website, and then on the website we put up like a form. People could submit their stories, and we got stories from all over the country. And then I had a co-producer who she vetted all the stories, so she would jump on a Zoom call with these people to see what they were about and
Mm,
if they just wanted their 15 minutes. And there's always those.
yeah.
And then I got I got like epistles written on Facebook. People like, here's my story. I'm like, oh, okay, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
so, so once we heard Maddie, our firefighter story, and it was very, very compelling. Um, he was very willing to kind of just bare his soul,
Hmm.
and that takes a special person to be willing to do that and do it
Yeah.
authentically, and not hold back. Um, and so all three of our people that were our main characters, they really did that, and I hold that very carefully because we're putting them out there,
Hmm.
uh, and to tell their story, good, bad, or and to be honest, I didn't know where it was going to go because they're still in process, and they still are,
Yeah.
and um, we can talk about this later, but we had a tragedy after the film came out with one of our characters,
What happened?
and
Well,
so we lost our dispatcher, the one from Boston.
uh,
Uh, she was very well known in the 911 community. She spoke at the national conferences, had all the tools, was doing, helping other people to talk. And she ended up leaving the Boston area, moved to South Dakota. And we tell that story in the film. And out there, she lost her job because she got COVID, lost hearing, and
mm,
the agency cut her without letting her like heal. They just cut
yeah.
her. They just cut her off. Which was for someone that was, a rock star. And I've been told by other people that worked with her, she was a rock star in 911.
Hmm.
She ended up then leaving, left South Dakota, went back to Maine, where it was her home state. And in August of 23, she took her life, and we lost her. And it was not something I was ready for. She was the last of the three that we expected this to happen to.
Hmm.
She was, um, yeah, it was devastating. But what has come out of that is her story continues, and her story makes impact in a deep way across, especially in the 911 world, because a lot of people knew about her. She was on some of the biggest podcasts, for 911. Ricardo Martinez, she was on his show, and he's got one of the biggest 911 podcasts, and she told her story there, and so a lot of people knew her. And it's not the way I wanted the story to end for any of my subjects. But now I carry her story, I take it around the country. And what it did for me is it kind of lit a fire under me to not to cast blame
Hmm.
on me or anyone around her, but to but to reach out. So I've made it a practice now of every week, as much as possible, is I get my phone and I pick three people and I just send them a text. Hey, haven't talked to you in a minute. How are you doing? And man, the messages I get back are like, wow, that was just real timely, or thanks for reaching out. Thanks for thinking of me. Um, we need to do that more, And
Yeah.
so everywhere we go, we've had 89 screening events around the country now. Everywhere we go, every screening event, I ask the people in the room to, before they leave the room, to send a text to 3 people. And if we can spread that message of checking on each other, and I love my friends down in North Carolina who have the hashtag buddy check, a hashtag. I think that they're trademarking it, but it's such an important thing to do, is to
Yeah.
check on each other. And Nicole's passing just is a constant reminder of that. Just because someone looks like they have all their shit together, doesn't mean they
Uh-huh.
do. And it's okay if they don't, but we need to check on each other. And if they're
Yeah.
quiet, if they're withdrawn, if they're not answering, then go knock on a door. And because that's how we save lives. And are we going to save every life? Absolutely not. We can't. You know,
Yeah.
to save her life would have had to been physically there in the room. And we can't do
Uh-huh.
that 24/7. But we can save a lot of lives just by sending a text message and reminding someone that there's people who care about you. And so that's my mission now, is to help spread that word and to get people to check on each other and to genuinely um, reach out and care.
What I'm curious is having make that film and then her end up committing suicide, what or how long did it take you to kind of process that? I would imagine you felt some guilt, because I feel like everybody
Mm,
feels guilt when somebody kills
yeah.
himself. It's always like, what did I
Yep.
do? Why didn't I call them? All this other
Yep.
things.
Yep.
So how did you process that, and how long did it take you to kind of to get to a point where you're like, okay, I can live on now with this?
Yeah. It took a while. The first thing, actually, that weekend that we found out, and the way I found out was very bizarre. Someone had posted, a friend of hers from South Dakota posted a message on my YouTube channel, RIP
Oh
Nicole.
wow,
That's literally how I found out at first.
that's a crappy way to find out.
It's a really crappy way to
Yeah,
find out. And so all I knew to do is send her a text, because that's all I had. I didn't
yeah.
have her family information. And so an hour later, her mother called me and told me the news. And now me and her mom and her dad are great friends. They have actually, probably the most healing event for this was when they invited me and the other 2 people in the film up to Maine for a screening event. They wanted to show the film in their home community in honor
That's
of Nicole.
awesome.
And we were able to spend 4 days there, staying at their home, hanging out with them, had a big lobster
Mhm.
feast one night. And then we just sat around the living room talking about Nicole. And because even though we're all from different parts of the country, when we all came together, we had our premiere in Texas, and we rented a big Airbnb, so we were all together for 3 or 4 days. So everybody got to know each other and hang
That's
out.
awesome.
And so Maddie, the firefighter from Anaheim, and Desiree, the officer from here in Frederick, we all came up to Maine together, and were able to just spend time with her family. And it was so healing to be there, to hear their stories, of the Nicole that we didn't know,
Mhm.
from growing up and learning that, horrific childhood that she had, and how she was through the foster system, and then adopted, and then became a member of this family. And they took her in at 7, and she was a huge part of their family. And just the stories and how she was funny. She had a she had a mouth on her, you know, and they talk about that a lot. Oh, Nicole, if she were here, we'd be hearing a couple F bombs, here and there.
So you are used
And-
to people cussing.
oh yeah. um, and so that I would say, and that was probably, see, and I was actually asked to come up and speak at her memorial service. The family asked me to come up, and so I did that. But that was in August, and then I think it was October that year when we had the event up in Maine. And that was really the best thing that we could have done to bring healing, to bring closure, if
Mhm.
there is closure to this, to know that her family is so supportive of the film. In fact, we've had a number of events in the Boston area, and they live about 3 hours from Boston. They drive down almost every time to participate in
That's
those
awesome.
events and be there. And it's powerful when we show the film, and then afterwards they come up front and they talk a little bit about Nicole. It's like it's a powerful moment. We had that up in Reading, Massachusetts, a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it's healing and it's powerful and it's healing for the family to be
Mhm.
there and to know that their daughter's story is making an impact. Uh, in fact, it was a week after her memorial service. We had a screening event in Pennsylvania, and I was like, I don't, I don't have words. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And so a friend of mine knew this. I guess he was a suicidologist. He's a guy who studies suicide.
Didn't know there was such a thing.
There's a thing, yeah, and
Hmm.
he was like a world-renowned guy, and
Oh.
I was at the venue, and I spent 45 minutes sitting in my car talking to this guy, talking about how I talk about this, and that was so helpful, um, just to understand, how to express grief, how to express, this to an audience who just learned this information.
Mhm.
And it was very helpful for me. But then again, I guess to really answer your question, it was that moment in October up in Maine when we were able to, spend time with her family. And
Yeah.
in fact, her mom tells this story. I think it was that Christmas. They had a bunch of people over at the house, and they have a little shrine set up with photos and things of Nicole on this table.
Yeah.
And they had one of their other daughters had a boyfriend there. He had never been there, and he was kind of sitting by himself. And mom goes, "Hey, why don't you come over here and talk to Nicole?" He was like,
Oh no.
"What?"
It's a great way to vet them.
Right, yeah, right. So, but Nicole she was an amazing human being, and if she only knew the impact that her life has had on people, and still has, and is having on people, her story continues, her impact continues, uh, to bring healing and hope for people, even when she didn't have hope for herself.
I'm sure you hopefully have come to this conclusion to some degree, but I'm sure that the what you did with the documentary actually just prolonged her life longer than it probably would have been prior to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's, like I said, she was a force to be reckoned with, and she
Mm.
still is. Her story still is. Yeah.
In all of this, what was one of the worst stories for you to hear then? And not to go in depth about the stories, but
Mhm.
just, for you personally having to hear it and witness it. Because I know that when people do hear these stories, it does affect them. And we
Mhm.
sometimes forget, that it does. But how was that for you, and what kind of stories were bothersome to you?
I think probably the stories that were most impactful, and even in the film, and we put this one story in the film, was uh, a suicide attempt, and what led up to that, and the whole process of it. And I won't go into detail. You have to watch the movie to get the details, but and in the film, it is the most impactful part of the film, because obviously he didn't complete suicide. He's still with us.
Hmm.
But and really the part of that story was his wife's story,
Hmm.
and the impact that had, on her. And so that was really the hardest part. And when we filmed that, have him telling this story, it was 3 weeks earlier.
Oh, it was only 3 weeks prior?
Yeah.
Wow, that's fresh. I'm surprised he
Very
would talk
fresh.
about it.
And, he still wasn't at that point, wasn't totally well, you know, it was really raw. It was very raw. And that's the thing with Maddie. In fact, he told me here recently, he was like, "Oh, you're going to another screening. You're going to see me cry again for 84 minutes." And he jokes about that. But he's it's such an empath,
Uh,
as this big, tough, tattooed firefighter, that has seen everything there is to see in emergency
mm,
services. But yet he wears his emotions sometimes on his sleeve, so to speak, and is real. And he makes it okay to be human, and I think
yeah.
that's sometimes what first responders forget, that they're human beings. You're human beings, and you have emotions, you have feelings, and it's okay to feel. You know, in Nicole's story, there was one incident where she took a call. It was actually a police involved shooting, and she talks about how she went home that night and she didn't want to feel. So
Yeah.
she downed a bottle of whiskey to not feel. And we want to, I want to encourage first responders that it's okay to feel. Yeah, it's shitty, you know? It's not fun.
Mm-mm.
Uh, but it's okay to feel and to be human because that's part of who we are. And if we just suppress that, one day that's gonna blow up in our face if we just push it down. And so it's important to have a place where you can express that feeling and to be real with people. If you can't be real with your coworkers, then find someone to be real with. You know, find a therapist. In fact, I have a therapist. So funny story on that is after I made the film and, I have a lot of vicarious trauma that I've experienced, through
Yeah.
these stories. And my buddy Todd, who's the wellness officer down in Garland, Texas, he kept poking me. He's like, okay, you going to get a therapist, Conrad? You going to get a therapist? I
Practice
said,
what
yeah,
you
yeah. I
preach.
said, yeah, yeah, I'm going to. I'm going to. Then one day I get an email and he was like, here's all the culturally competent therapists in Maryland. Pick one.
Like, damn it, I guess I will.
Right. So I was like, okay, I get it. So I did. And now I have a therapist and he's on my speed dial. I can talk to him anytime
Oh,
I
nice.
choose to. So
Was it first time charm or did you have to go through a few?
now it's the first time. This guy he's a cop's cop,
Mm.
former detective.
Oh, that's big. Yeah.
We just hit it off, So yeah, I haven't talked to him in a minute now, but I saw him actually down in New Orleans at a conference I was at, and but yeah, he's a good guy and does a lot of great work with first responders. So yeah,
Mm. Good. Yeah, a lot of people are like, yeah, go see him. But then it's like, are you seeing one? Because then if you say no, they're like, well, why aren't you seeing one?
all right, yeah,
So it's a lot easier to preach to do it if you do it yourself. It's
absolutely.
like, okay, I guess I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So so let me
okay.
ask you: are you seeing a therapist?
Oh, that's a long story.
Oh, it's your podcast. That's right. You asked the questions, right?
I did that thing where I was like, I'll practice what I preach when I started peer support. And then I just stopped having time for it when I
Oh, boy.
retired,
Yeah.
I went through a few bad ones and then found a good one for a while. So
Yeah. That happens. It's crazy that I've heard some of the stories I've heard about that. I heard one
No.
firefighter tell me is like, yeah, my therapist started crying, the first session. Is like,
Yeah.
okay, that's the wrong one.
Yeah, it's like, saddle up. I got
Right. I know.
I had one that asked me about stuff with her book. She was like, so what about this case? Did that person go, what do you think about this call? I'm like, what? Like, it was bizarre. I was like, I'm going to quit this.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
you definitely have
yeah.
to find the one that works for you. Someone that,
Definitely.
doesn't, understands the culture, understands, whether
Mhm.
you're law enforcement or in fire or EMS or 911, understands that culture.
Yeah.
Someone has done a few ride-alongs. I mean, that's important.
Mm,
If a therapist hasn't done a ride-along, then they may not really understand.
agreed.
And it's not too hard to do a ride-along. Just go sign some paperwork and
No.
you're good to go.
So you won't sue us if you get killed.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's about it.
That's about it. Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to put a list together. Like we've tried back when I did the peer support thing, we tried to put a list together of, like here's some law
Mhm.
enforcement vetted therapists, but there was like 3, and we're a pretty big city. So
Yeah. Well, the
it's hard to
FOP
do.
has, are you a law enforcement?
Well, it was. I'm
Yeah.
tired now.
The FOP has a pretty substantial list on their website. I think they
What?
actually vet therapists around the country. So if you go to their website, they can find people for you. Yeah.
I know about. I'll have to see if they have any from here on there or even close to here.
Probably
'cause,
do. They probably do.
Man,
Yeah.
where were you when we did the peer support revamp? You were around. I just didn't hear. But, so I have to ask a cop versus firefighter question.
Okay.
I'm guessing you spent time with both of them,
Yep.
and it's not a hating on firefighter question. Don't worry, I'll get to
Okay.
that at some point. But no, if you were to make 2 separate movies, and I know that 911 dispatchers are in there as well, but if you were to make 2 separate movies, be it cops and firefighters and PTSD, what would be the similarities and the differences? Because they are 2 completely different careers. It's just they're both traumatizing. So I feel like public usually lumps them together because it's easy to do, and we do work a lot together. But what would you do differently, or if anything?
That's a good question. I think the similarities, obviously, that you guys show up on the same scenes. You have a different perspective of the scene. Firefighters are often, especially paramedics, are often the ones, inside the car extracting body parts sometimes and things like that. You've all seen the the terrible accidents and stuff like that. You've all seen the shootings because, if there's a shooting, the cops are there investigating, but then the medics are there taking care of the victims and things like that. So there's a lot of crossover there.
Yeah.
I think where the differences in today's culture, especially where law enforcement is generally hated in a lot of places,
Yeah, it's
and
easy to hate.
so they come with that baggage, whereas generally firefighters are looked on favorably for the most part,
Bastards. Yeah.
you know, so you have that going for you as a
Mm-hmm.
firefighter, and you have that. Sometimes, some places, you have a target on your back as law enforcement, and so I think I would probably, if I'd make two films, I'd probably focus probably on in law enforcement. I'd probably focus on that particular aspect of law enforcement of how, it's more difficult now than it was in the past. I mean, I remember, when cops were like, "Oh yeah, as a cop, that's a good thing," but now it's like,
Mm.
here's a big but. A lot of what you see out there is just what's on the media. There's a lot of people who love cops. There's a lot of people who support law enforcement. The media wants you to think otherwise. And social media wants you to think otherwise, because what do you see when you scroll through TikTok or whatever, the reels, you see all this crazy people
Mm-hmm.
doing crazy, batshit crazy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
with cops not wanting to get out of the car or just arguing, that's all you see. And of course, when you see something like that, the algorithm just feeds you more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a lot of negativity there that it appears to be the majority when I really think it's not. I don't think it's the majority. Um, I think there's a lot of, I know there's a lot of people who really support law enforcement. Uh, you just can't let those negative voices rule the airwaves, and
Yeah.
unfortunately with our national media, and that has kind of become par for the course, unfortunately. And I blame them in a lot of ways. I blame the national media for kind of enhancing that narrative,
Yeah.
and taking that to the next level. On the other hand, I'm going to say something here that may ruffle some feathers. Wellness doesn't start at the ground level. Wellness starts with leadership. We don't have a wellness problem in our agencies. We have a leadership problem.
Yes.
We have leaders who haven't stepped up, who have been too wussified to step up and make a difference and to take care of their people. We have leaders who are well, I'll put it this way. We have people who are in positions of authority who have a title.
Mm-hmm.
It's chief, assistant chief, battalion chief, captain, commander, whatever the title is. Just because you have a title doesn't make you a leader. Leadership is influence. You can be the rookie, coming into an agency, and you can be a leader.
Mm-hmm.
What is leadership? Leadership, I love what Simon Sinek says. Leadership is not being in charge. Leadership is taking care of the people in your charge. And if our first responder leaders would step up and take care of the people in their charge, we would probably have fewer suicides. That's the bottom line. Leaders need to step up and take care of their people. Now, sometimes that means standing up to the city leaders and saying, look, we're going to do this for our people. We're going to take care of them. We're going to provide the resources we need to take care of our people. Regardless of what the public says, we're going to take care of our people, because if we don't have healthy officers coming on calls, we're going to have more things that happen that end up on the evening news. And how we stop that is we have leaders that step in and say, we are going to take care of our people. You indicate that you have some issues, we're going to get you help. I had a police chief down in Garland, Texas. He told me we treat a mental health issue exactly the same as we would a knee injury. You have a knee injury, guess what? You're out for surgery. You have 6 weeks of recovery. You have all this time off. We're going to take care of you. We're going to come send you flowers. We're going to do all the things to take care of you. But what do we do if you have a mental health issue? Oh, we hide it. We don't tell anybody. You're off without pay. No one comes up to show you, to see you, all the stuff. You're not taking care of your people. So why should that officer say something if he or she knows you're not going to be taken care of? Leaders, step up, take care of your people. You're going to have fewer. It's a proven thing. When I interviewed a captain of a fire department down in Texas, This was in Little Elm, Texas. He went to the city leaders. This was one of the captains, not the chief, but one of the captains went to the city leaders, said, "Hey, I want a line item in the budget for mental health for our team." They said, "Why?" He explained it all. They said, "Okay, we'll do it." He said, "They have so many firefighters lining up at the door, coming from bigger, better paying agencies wanting to work for them because they're taken care of.
They're showing investment.
They're showing that they care and they're investing in their people and they're doing the things that's necessary to take care of their people up front. You can't wait till they're broken to try to fix them. Well, you got to fix them, of course. But if
Yeah.
you take care of them up front, you're going to still have some broken people. It happens. But you're going to have a lot fewer. You're going to have fewer call-ins. You're going to have fewer people out on sick leave. You're going to have just all these things that make a difference when you take care of your people. So I'm calling leaders out to step up and to be the leaders that you are intended to be, to take care of your people. Because when you do that and you invest in your people, you forget about just trying to make the bonus, trying to make the raise, trying to get the next level so that you can retire comfortably. Forget all that. If you take care of your people, you're going to rise in rank, okay? Because they're going to appreciate you. And I love what John Maxwell says about leadership. He said, if you're a leader and no one's following you, you're just taking a walk.
Oh, I like that too.
You're not a leader.
No. Thank you for it's so great to hear somebody that's not involved in the EMS stuff to say that, because we think we're living in our own little world and that nobody else sees what's going on. We're like, why does nobody, like, this is insane. Why aren't these guys doing this? What is going on with our leadership? I mean, I know it's a problem across the country, but it's nice to hear somebody that's actually outside of it that's seen in it to I see that same thing.
It's the number one thing I hear when I travel across the country. I've been in 89 cities, 28 states in the past 3 years. And it's the number one thing I hear is bad leadership. And so we're actually working on that. We're working on developing some programming, some training, some resources to help leaders be better.
Good.
Yeah.
What do you see, or how do you see to fix it? Like, what's something that you think you could take to the first step to fix it? Because I've gone to head, and I have not. I retired early due to these things, but it's I don't know how to change a mindset that's so set in stone.
It's difficult to change someone. I mean, we can't expect to pull a magic lever and change people. How hard is it to change you? How hard is it to change me? It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Change is difficult. But here's the thing. Transformation doesn't come in comfort. Transformation only comes in difficulty. Transformation comes by doing the hard things. And it starts with the individual. It starts with you, it starts with me. So whether you are the person in charge, chief, whatever your title is, you're the captain, or whether you are the rookie just coming in, going through probation, you got to start with you first. Lead yourself first well. Because when you start with you and you do the things that you know you need to do to get to the highest level, then that begins to spread. That begins because now if you're getting up early and you're doing all the things to take care of you first, now your friends that you work with say, "Oh, what are you doing?" "Well, I'm getting up at 4:30. I'm working out and I'm reading and I'm, inspiring my brain. I'm doing the things I need to do to be the best." What does Kobe Bryant, what did he do when he was a basketball player, when he was here? You know what he did every day? The number one basketball player in the world. You know what he did every day? He got up at 4:00 in the morning, went to the gym and shot hoops every single day because he knew if he didn't, he wouldn't be number one. He knew if he didn't do that, he would just be average, just like everybody else. And so if you want to be above average, if you want to be the leader that we need to be, it starts with the individual. And it starts by stepping up, doing the hard things. A few years ago, I started working on myself. I was average in a lot of ways. And I wanted to be better. I wanted to better myself. And I'm still a work in progress. I'm far from have not arrived. If you think you've arrived, you're just average. So
if you don't think that you had a really long way to go, then you're average.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I started doing some things different. I started getting up earlier. I started working out. I started having a devotional time. I started doing all the things that, it sucks sometimes. But I know if I want to succeed, if I want to be the best that I can be, then I've got to do these things. And that's what it takes for every individual to do that. And if you do it, if you're the people around you do it, it begins to filtrate into the agency. And when people lift themselves up, they lift up the whole boat, so to speak, you know?
Mhm.
Um, it spreads. I'm a pretty positive person. I don't have much, I don't really have a negative day ever just because I choose not to, yeah, my life is a way different than yours or anybody in first responders. I don't have to deal with the stuff that you guys deal with.
Retired. Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? I still have stuff I got to deal with.
Yeah.
And so I do what I have to do to be the best that I can be so that I can succeed at what I choose to do. And if you want to be the best cop, if you want to be the best firefighter, if you want to be the best version of you, then you got to do the hard things. Transformation does not come through comfort. Transformation comes through difficulty.
I have kind of a darker question for you then, and then
Okay.
I swear I won't keep you on here too much longer.
No, it's okay.
So then after all of this stuff, all of the things that you've done with with the documentary and then talking to different people in your exposure, let's say that we have somebody sitting in a room and this is kind of the spiel that I gave after we just had somebody kill himself a couple months ago, but sitting in a room, and the phone is a hell of a lot heavier than that gun that's very familiar with all of our hands. We know the weight of it. We know what it is. We know what it does. And for some reason, that phone is so fucking heavy. What do you do to change that mindset, or what would you do? I mean, just a text, or like, is there something that you would say? What would you do after all your exposure to all of these first responders?
If I were in that dark place,
If you knew somebody in that dark place and
I
you had
just,
something to say to them.
I would say I would reach out, phone call, sometimes a text, depending on how they want to communicate. And I would just say, hey, you know what? I'm here. I hear you. I'm here for you. Um, Sometimes if it's a situation where if you have an idea that they may be suicidal, you have to ask them the question. You have to be straight up and ask, are you intending to hurt yourself tonight? You're not going to put the idea in their head. That's a myth. You have to be straight up and ask the question. These are things I've learned from the people that I've been around that work with people like this. You have to ask the question. You have to ask, are you going to hurt yourself tonight or tomorrow? Are you in a situation where, and if they say yes, then you have to call 911. You have to do what you have to do to get them help
Yeah.
now. Otherwise, I would say, I want you to know that I'm here for you. And I've had these conversations. I am here for you. You know my number. I'm going to check on you. I'm going to check on you tomorrow and then follow up with that. Sometimes it means going by their place, knocking on the door. Maybe they don't want to come to the door. I had this situation. They don't want to come to the door, but you keep knocking. And I've stood outside the door texting. I've called, knocking on the door. Hey, I'm here. Open the door. I know you're there. You just have to be persistent and genuinely care. And sometimes it means helping them make a decision to get help. We took someone one time and made arrangements for them to go to a treatment center.
Mm.
And we just said, you know what? This is made available for you. All expenses are paid. Here's your ticket. I'll be at your house at 4:00 in the morning, take you to the airport. I'm taken to the airport and I put you on the plane. And we've done that.
That's awesome.
And it was transformative. They didn't want to go. They did not want to go. They finally decided, okay, I'll go reluctantly if you make me.
Damn, yeah.
Obviously they had to choose to walk onto the plane, and they
Yeah.
did. But it saved their life. And that's some of the best feelings in the world, to know that you were able to help somebody and they choose to live another day. And sometimes it's easy to look at everything and see just it just looks huge. It's just so much weight. Maybe it's debt, maybe it's all the stuff that people deal with. But you say, you know what? Let's just look at today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Let's look at today. Let's live today. Tomorrow's another day. Then tomorrow comes. Let's live today. If we take it one day at a time and we walk with them, it's not easy. It's not easy to walk with someone like that, but it's necessary sometimes. And sometimes, we have to be willing to get our hands dirty and to make sacrifices for us this is a big concern of mine are the caregivers.
Yeah.
I think caregivers, probably people like you, need to make sure that they have white space in their life. And by that, I mean, take time away from caring for others and care for yourself. Because if you don't care for yourself first, what do they say on a plane? Put your oxygen mask on you first, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not taking care of you, you can't take care of others effectively. And so I talk to a lot of people around the country who are caregivers who struggle with that. And that was in our film, Maddie, our firefighter, talks about that. He was a caregiver, still is. And he went off the rails because he didn't take care of himself. And so as in in a previous film, my film about the opioid crisis, I had a guy that was a former heroin user, former drug dealer, all the stuff, spent, I think, 15 years in prison. And now he was helping other people in addiction. And at one point, I don't think he does this anymore, but at one point I was with him and he was like answering texts and taking phone calls and doing all this stuff. And
Yeah.
I said, Sean, when do you turn off your phone? Oh, man, I can't turn it off. If I turn it off, someone's going to die.
Yeah.
Dude, you're not responsible for everybody. You're responsible for you first.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you have to turn off the phone and choose to live yourself. I know it's hard.
Yeah, that's extremely hard. Well, at first, and then eventually you get used to it. But yeah, that's freaking hard.
And then
to do.
surround yourself with people who can support you. Get into a community group, get into a group that, that meets on a weekly basis and has conversations like this and encourages each other, because that's what brings hope and help for you. Yeah.
Do you know what I suggest that I just tried with my daughter? Puppy yoga. You do yoga with a bunch of puppies. It's amazing.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Highly suggest it.
Is it kind of like goat yoga? Have you seen the goat yoga?
Yeah, except for it's with puppies. It's so much better. You're not getting heavy, I don't know, baby goats on you, I guess, but it's better because it's puppies.
Yeah.
So.
And you know what else works? You know what else is I highly, highly recommend. And I do it almost every single day, is I go for a 2-mile walk outside. I get outside and I walk. It is something about that it does something to the brain. Breathing in the morning sunlight in the morning air and getting outside, and it's refreshing. I take my dog, and she's laying right here tonight, and I walk, and gets me ready for the day. So, yeah, highly recommend.
So you can tell a difference the mornings that you don't walk and you do.
Oh yeah, yeah. If I get out, because it gets my day going. It's just, it gets my heart beating, and my doctor is like, "What have you been doing? Because your heart sounds really good."
Like walking?
Added benefit, walking. Yes.
Well, now that you've had that movie out for a little bit, because I'm a little late on the uptick. Sorry about that, everybody.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm just glad we're having this conversation now.
I know. Me too. Have you accomplished what you had hoped you'd accomplish by this point? And if so, also, what do you want to further accomplish with it?
Yeah. You know what? It's been an amazing journey. And the film came out 3.5 years ago.
Yeah.
November of 22. And I could never have predicted that I'd be traveling to 28 states and, 80 plus cities. We're now talking to people in Australia about doing a tour there. We had a call from someone in Brazil. They want to bring the film. So it's just been an amazing journey and the people that we've reached, I could never have predicted it. So I'm very grateful, but we have a long way to go. Here's another person sitting in front of me that hasn't heard about the film until recently. I was in North Carolina a month ago, and there was a room of 300, medics and EMTs and first responders, and very few of them had heard about the film. I'm like, man, we got a lot of work to do to get the word. Because our goal is to get this film into every single public safety agency in the country, because it transforms agencies. It gets their people talking. It gives them permission. We were just outside of Jackson, Mississippi, a year and a half ago, and there was about 75 people in the room, and a fire chief was there, and he comes up to me afterwards, and he was like, I didn't think I had a problem until I saw this movie. And since then, he's let me know they've started a support group for first responders. They've started bringing in mental health workers for their first responders. And then about 2 months after that screening event, a medical helicopter crashed in their community, killed 3 3 people. And he sent me a text the next day. He says, "Hey, I don't know if you heard about this helicopter going down." And he said, "Me and my guys were first on scene and we're not good." And I thought later, if he had not come to the screening event,
Mm-hmm.
he would have had no one to text. He would have probably just stuffed it down and said, "Suck it up, boys. Let's go on the next call." But no,
Yep.
now he was able to reach out to someone. And that's what gives me hope. That's why we want to get this film into every community in our country, because every first responder needs to see it. This is what I preach. That's my goal, is for every first responder to see this film and to engage with it and to have this honest conversation of, hey, it's not okay to stuff it down. It's normal to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay there. You can get help. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to raise your hand and say, "Yeah, I'm screwed up. I need help."
Mm-hmm.
It's totally okay to do that. And in my opinion, you're a much stronger person than you think you are when you have to say, "You know what? I need help." It takes a brave person to do that.
Yeah, I concur. I love the older guys that tend to come in sometimes on the peer support. That some of them surprised me, and there were some of the those gruff ones that we talk about, and they came on to the team, and I was like, hell yeah, you know.
Mhm,
They, it takes them about a decade and a half, and then they realize like, oh, this isn't right. Like, there's a problem, and then
mhm.
they talk. So it's
Yeah.
it's it's really awesome to see that when they do that.
I had an old time firefighter tell me, this was years ago when I was first starting work on this film. He's retired, and I think he was just a volunteer firefighter too. Well, I say just, but he was a volunteer firefighter. He said, "Man, in my day, it was suck it up. Here's a beer."
On duty.
Sometimes, in fact, we were talking the other day. I was out in Las Vegas at an event, and they were talking about there were certain places around the country where, yeah, you could drink like up to 2 beers on duty.
Yeah, you can. Well, I
It's
know you
like,
could as a narc. As a narc, you could drink.
okay.
It's like, okay,
It's like, I don't know. That's a good idea.
probably not the best practice,
I guess
but
maybe it depends on what you're drinking. If you're drinking, 100 proof whiskey, maybe.
so I think they can have a .02 BAC or
Okay.
like, and then they're okay. But
Okay.
so maybe one.
Yeah. And,
So is there any questions that you wish somebody had asked you about your film that nobody has, or that
hmm,
you felt that they should have, and you were kind of like, why has nobody asked me this question?
boy, I've been asked a lot of questions. Probably, I can't think of
Oh.
anything right offhand. So, yeah, maybe something along the lines of, is there someone else that you wish you would have put in your film, or another story line that you would have put in? And I love the people that are in my film. I love them dearly, and I
Hmm.
wouldn't change anything there. There's probably additional storylines we could have added. In fact, we did have to cut a few stories out, which is always so difficult to do.
Yeah.
Especially when you go and you spend time with them and you get to know them, they get to know you, and so sometimes that's a hard decision to make. And yeah, we probably hurt some feelings, and I have to tell people that, I never guarantee anyone that they're going to be in the film. It's just not a guarantee,
Hmm.
because ultimately, it's the story I want to tell, and it's the story that, and when you're making documentaries, at least the way I make documentaries, I don't script out the film. I just let the conversation be the script, and so you never know where that's going to go,
No.
and it may take a left turn, um, so you just never know. So uh, sometimes when people have the expectation of, oh, you did an interview with me, I'm going to be in the film, and then they're not, it can cause some hurt feelings. And we've had a little bit
Hmm.
of that, but not much. But I just want people to know I care about every story I tell, every person that we engage with. Just because you're not in the film doesn't mean your story isn't valid and your story isn't worth telling. It's just for this particular project, it didn't fit. And so I want to tell people, telling your story is powerful. Telling your story is healing. Um, so a quick little side note, we had a detective in my film that just has like a little 2-minute piece in the film.
Hmm.
And he was a funny guy. He's kind of older guy, just chiseled, just kind of just gruff and tough, and swore like a sailor and smoked like a chimney.
Yeah, my
And
type of person.
yeah, and he's a detective, and he had a bomb squad shirt on, and he had just come from blowing up doors. They were training people and doing entries and stuff. I don't want to be in your blankety blank movie. I don't want to sit in front of a camera. And finally, we convinced him that, yeah, you need to tell your story. So we sat him down, and he had an amazing story where he took someone's life, and his life went off the rails and drank himself almost to death. And then the chief helped him get help and got sober and saved his life. And afterward, he was like, "Hey, you can't put my name in the film, okay? And you can't even say what agency I'm with." Okay, Mike, you're okay. Well, 2 weeks later, he calls. He was like, "Yeah, you can put my name. You can reveal the agency." So his piece made it in the film, and he came to the premiere, and he came down front. He's all dressed up, so proud. He shook my hand, and I still get emotional because he shook my hand. And he was like, "Man, thank you for letting me tell my story. Because now every time I tell my story, I heal a little bit more." And later I heard that he ordered one of our posters for the movie and had it framed, and he has it hanging up on his wall.
That's awesome.
So it's like, don't ever shy away from telling your story, because stories are powerful, and stories aren't just there to heal other people. Stories heal you. And so that's what keeps me going, is helping people tell their stories. And it's a powerful tool for healing.
Concur, which is why we started. I say we, it's really just me over here, but I've got other people to help me every now and then.
I do the same thing. It's like my big team here, me and my dog.
It's a huge team. But it's, we started this thing because I feel like nobody ever takes a second to actually talk to somebody. And I was like, how great it would be to actually just sit down and dedicate an hour plus to talk to somebody and not have distractions or whatever,
Yep. So. Well, congratulations on that. Awesome.
It's been fun, man. But I mean, it's not me, it's the guests. You guys are the ones with the stories talking, and it's been awesome. I just like sitting and getting to actually hear somebody's story and not have a freaking distraction or something. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thanks for making the movie.
It's my pleasure. It's transformed my life. Because this is all I do now is the film. I have a podcast, First Responder Wellness Podcast, and I travel the country sharing the film. We work on some other initiatives, like I said, in the area of leadership and developing that, and we're going to be rolling that out soon. And we're actually we're working on a leadership summit that we're going to put on for top level leaders. And so we'll be announcing that soon. And got some really exciting people on my team to help put that together. So it's really this, making this film has changed the whole course of my life, and I'm so grateful. So I'm so grateful for that.
Good. I'm glad, because it's worth, the story's worth telling and worth showing. So I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna let you know how bad. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna let you know my criticism.
Sure, please do. Bring it on. Bring it on.
That's it. What I'm going to do after this, I'm going to go watch that movie. So thank you. I'm excited. Yeah. And if I can ever do anything from this side of the States to help you out with anything, by all means, let me know. I got a bunch of people in the wing that would be happy to help you. So
we would love to bring the film to your community. And if you want to reach out, just go to our website, PTSD911movie.com. There's a form on there you can fill out for screening information. And my business partner, Gary, will be in touch. And he's the one that kind of arranges all these things. I had to bring someone on to help because I couldn't. So I do have a we.
Brag much.
So my buddy Gary, he's retired, and he was like, I want to help you. And so he lives out in Kansas, and he does all that kind of work. And so, you can reach out to him and through our website, and would love to bring the film to wherever you are, whether you're in Alabama or Alaska or, Timbuktu. We will bring the film and, so what we love doing is getting the community together, get the first responder community together. You can get a college room or a high school auditorium or sometimes a church or even a movie theater. Or you can just, rent a space and put up a blow up screen like one place did. And we'll have an event and bring the people together, and we'll have a discussion. We love to have a panel discussion at the end of the film, and where we kind of talk about, okay, what do we do next? And so we bring first responder leaders, peer support people together, and have a discussion. And I kind of help facilitate that. And so that's the kind of thing we love to do. And agencies can purchase the film. If you go to our website, you can PTSD911movie.com. You can see where you can purchase the film to use in-house for training. And so we have it. The film is available we have a couple different versions of it. We have a long version, it's 84 minutes, and we have a shorter version that's 52 minutes. And then we have a bunch of other resources, some interviews that didn't make it in the film but were important. We have a whole nother documentary about use of force. It's kind of a law enforcement focused documentary.
That's awesome.
So it's about using martial arts and the use of force. So it's called Risk Lock. It's by my buddy Jason Harney, another former cop that makes documentaries as well. And sneak peek, there's a new film in the works.
Oh, do tell.
And we are actually, I don't know when this is going to come out, but we are launching a Kickstarter campaign on April 15th to raise money for a new film we're working on about heart disease and first responders.
That's a good topic.
So right now the working title is Code Red. And we will be announcing this very soon. We're launching a Kickstarter campaign to raise some money to help produce the film. So if this comes out and it's the Kickstarter campaign will run like April 15th to May 15th. So get on there, make a donation, and help us raise some money so we can make that film. And so my buddy Jason and I are working on that together. So
I'll push it out. I don't know when this will come, but I'll push it out prior to that.
Okay, awesome.
Just to get the word out. I'll put all the links and everything down in the show notes. So if anybody wants easy access, they could just click on it. Thanks for coming on and doing all the things that you've done, because it's always nice when somebody outside invests in this stuff, because you kind of feel like you're on an island most of the time. Yeah. So it's always nice to be reminded you're not.
Well, it's my pleasure. One thing that drives me too is knowing that our first responders in our communities, they do so much they sacrifice so much time away from families, time away from important holidays and birthdays and all the stuff to take care of our communities. And this is my way of, giving back in a way to help our first responder community. I think we should support our first responders in every way possible. And I'm going to keep doing this as long as I can.
Well, I hope that you do. And I'm excited to see about this next one. What it's called? Code Red?
Code Red. Yep.
Code Red. All right. I'm excited to see about that one too. Maybe we'll have to do a follow-up later.
There you go. We got some really cool people lined up for that film. We got a former federal agent turned cardiologist.
What?
Yes. He's still a reserve officer in San Antonio.
God, that's a hard left, but
yeah. Former cop, now is a heart doctor. So yeah.
I'd be curious what made that turn,
yep.
But I'll leave it for the film.
Tune in to find out.
If you could just hold on for another second. I know this is when everybody clicks off. I mean, I do too, or skips ahead. But down below, you'll find all the show notes for PTSD911 movie, so you can easily just click on it and see where you can watch it, how you can get it, all the other good stuff. Highly recommend it. And then also, if you guys know somebody that should be a guest, or if you want to be a guest, by all means, we're still booking for season 2, and we have several openings still, and we just love the different types of people that we have that are interested in it. And feel free to interact. Like, we've got another Q&A session coming up. No questions off the table, just freaking message us and let us know, and if we can, we'll answer it. All right, that's it. You guys have a fucking phenomenal week, and thank you. We'll see you soon. Maybe. I mean, shit, I don't know.